Metro 2033 was a spectacle of its time, coming out March of 2010, known to be the Russian version of the Fallout franchise. I took it upon myself to give it a try. Being a Fallout fanboy ever since the third installment and later grinding out New Vegas, I had high expectations to say the least. Although I deem New Vegas to be one of the greatest RPGs of all time, there are some that say that the Metro universe gives the true post-apocalypto experience. However, how does Metro 2033 stand up to time? Can it compete with the AAA titles that we see today? And would I recommend it to my fellow friendly game enthusiasts as well? Well, I hope to answer these questions in this video, but let me get something out of the way first. I am not a game critic, so my opinion is fully based on my own preferences. It is always best to give the game a try on your own and develop your own opinion. But who knows, maybe I will inspire you to give it a try yourself. But before we start, if you wish to see my playthrough and ending, I'll leave the link to my playlist in the description. Later, I plan on playing through Last Light and Exodus to give my full opinion on which universe may be best, Fallout or Metro. Other than that, it's time to let you guys in on my experience with the beautifully crafted game Metro 2033 Redux. If I were to go over every detail of the game's story, this video could become pretty lengthy, so for the sake of your time and mine, we will shorten it up a bit. The setting starts us with the underground portion of Moscow, known as the Metro. The Metro is made up of many different factions, although they typically fall within the same groups. So for the sake of the video, the groups are the Reds, the Nazis, the Rangers, and the Commonwealth. The Reds, being made up of Marxists and Neo-Stalinists, they hold on to the old Soviet ways, not only beliefs, but they quite literally hold on to the largest amount of Metro territory. The Reds also have the highest population. This is made understandable as we are chased through one of the many minor factions to join the draft. Those who decide they are too good for the draft, well, blood in, blood out. But it makes me understand why they have so many people that join them and hate them at the same time.
Stop, you punk!
The Nazis are... well, I'm sure you guys know who the Nazis are, but this is the other major faction that is in a direct war with the Russians. Following the fascist ideals from Hitler and the Third Reich, their mission is to eliminate beasts and Russians alike for their genetic standards, but I'm sure I can speak for Russians and ourselves when it comes to Nazis. Get some! The Rangers are pretty much the vigilantes of the Metro and surface. We typically find them coming to our rescue anytime we're at an absolute I'm screwed moment. They typically are found in the shadows, getting rid of beasts as well as those that prey on the weak, which, in my opinion, is easily the most badass of all the factions.
Bro, what the?
There are going to be major spoilers ahead regarding the story of this game. If you wish to try out the game for yourself, I highly encourage to skip to the next section of this video. Spoiler warning has been issued, so if you are still here, then there is no need to hold back. Nuclear war happens between the US and Russia, sparking the nuclear fallout. Seemingly, in this story, the only people left alive are those in the Metro and in Moscow. There is fighting between the Reds and the Nazis for the Metro territory, and the Rangers fight in the shadows. Now, there are some areas of the Metro that are not fully claimed. These are considered no man's land, where this portion of Metro has quite literally history repeating itself, or more specifically, silhouettes that can take hold of player ending in a restart screen. We see this with the silhouette train still running and a gang that Khan himself used to run with. Sadly though, this is pretty much one of the few times in the game where we see paranormal activity. Artyom, our playable character, is tasked by a ranger named Hunter in finding the head of the Rangers, Miller, who we can then find in Polis. The information we tell him is that we must act in with the highest priority falling onto the Dark Ones. These creatures communicate telepathically and presumably is what causes people to go mentally crazy due to the fact that people can't exactly tolerate the excess force that comes with telepathy. Well, except for one character, Artyom. When finding Miller in Polis, Miller then sends a group of soldiers to the Library of Moscow. Here, we the player make our way underground in hopes to find documents relating to D6. Now, what is D6 and why is it so important? Well, D6 is a secret underground military compound that holds on to pre-war weaponry. This can then be used in the fight against the Dark Ones. However, finding the documents is only one piece of the puzzle, as we need to return to Miller, who is now located in the only controlled territory implemented in Moscow. This location is known as Sparta's Outdoor Base. Yeah, that's a pretty cool name, right? After meeting with Miller for a second time, we are then sent right back out, but this time with a larger team and with one mission. Make our way to the legendary military compound D6 and seize control of it and its weapon systems. However, this is proven to be a bit of a challenge as we end up losing multiple members of our team throughout the process, though their lives were proven not to be in vain as we were finally able to make it to the legendary compound. Upon our arrival, we the hero were faced with a few challenges to get the place back up and running, but it didn't seem to be challenging enough to say the least. Before leaving D6 via Metro, we grab onto the guiding laser system. This is pretty much a high-tech laser pointer, although this laser is used to guide homing missiles found in the recently visited D6 military compound. There is a downside, though, to getting it to work. We first need to fight countless enemies, head towards the tallest tower in Moscow, take an elevator to the top, fall off of the elevator and give ourselves brain damage, after then continuing to climb, saving our comrade Miller from a flying mutant, continuing our final stretch, finally making it to the top, and setting up our guiding laser system. Finished? I don't think so. Once we finish setting up our laser system, we are then halted by a series of mental mazes. This is brought on by the Dark Ones, trying to prevent us from destroying their home. At the end of the series of mental challenges, Hunter, the ranger who tasked us at the beginning of the game, comes from the end of the maze and hands us a revolver, muttering,
If it's hostile, you kill it.
We then shoot and kill the Dark One before stopping us, end the mental maze we were imprisoned in, then guide the homing missiles via laser system straight into the Dark One's home. After watching, our player character Artyom finally takes a rest. If you have made it to this part of the video, then you have either watched through the story portion or skipped to this part. Either way, I will try my best to give my thoughts without spoiling it for those that skipped part 2. Before beginning my playthrough of Metro, I had seen countless videos and discussion posts on YouTube and Reddit alike. Playing through many AAA titles that have been launching recently, it was made apparent that many production companies were following the same safe-to-make formula. This is where companies would rather follow the same formula used from their previous games, rather than take a risk by creating something new, since these days it's about how much money you can rake in scrambling to find the next new big thing. That is to say, there are still other companies that wish to dip a toe in the deep end and gamble their odds to create a new world or formula that the gamer can immerse themselves in, rather than squeezing every last penny from a gamer's wallet. I'm looking at you, Call of Duty. After trying countless AAA titles and reading discussion posts, I finally decided it was time to go back. Specifically, back to one of the greatest years in gaming history, 2010. In 2010, we were given Red Dead Redemption 1, Mass Effect 2, and my personal favorite, Fallout New Vegas. This was a time where different studios were trying something new, so I thought, why not try something else from this successful year? This is when I landed on Metro 2033. Metro 2033 was considered the Russian version of Fallout, but if I can be honest, this is nothing like Fallout. Seriously. The only similarity seen is that both are post-apocalyptic. Other than that, I can't say that they are the same because it undermines what Metro 2033 is. It is a true gaming spectacle in its own world, a truly beautiful creation with a one-of-a-kind story, one that any sci-fi geek would fall head over heels for. Unforgettable characters with their own lore even if they aren't with us for too long, though enough to leave a lasting impact. Levels that are carefully created to set the mood for each chapter, whether making battlegrounds between two factions, a village of people trying to survive, or a dark and eerie path that is bound to make your heart start thumping. This game does an excellent job with keeping the player immersed in a world that games these days can't seem to compete with. When compared to Fallout New Vegas, it doesn't give you a full open world. You can't skip the main story and head straight for the finish. You have to take each and every level as it comes at you, and at the same time, it doesn't feel like a drag. You feel like you're consistently building the stepping stones to the story that the devs wish to immerse you in. This game may lack in the open world department, but makes up for it with the freedom of choice in every encounter. This allows for a limitless amount of playthroughs where sometimes choices do matter. This is all what is carefully handcrafted to give you a game like no other. Although I could go on and on with reasons why this game is amazing, it wouldn't be right to leave out the things that weren't my favorite. Characters seem to be what helps set the pace of the game, though we didn't seem to be with them too long as they either became separated from the player or departed from their lives. It's not that I wish that there was less moments of being alone in this playthrough, but I do wish that there was more than just fighting waves together. After a while, they tend to become a little repetitive. Another thing that stood out to me the most was the paranormal portion at the beginning of the game. It was an element to the story that I had wished to see more of. Seeing silhouettes, history repeating itself, and no man's land for only one part in the entire game was a bit of a downer, something that I was pretty excited for. Lastly, I understand this game was made in 2010, though I downloaded the remaster version that was made in 2014, Redux. There were times where there were some pretty immersion-breaking bugs, moments where I would be stopped in place due to becoming distracted. However, I won't hold it over this game's head as every game has its own share of bugs, and this in no way ruined my playthrough.
What the?
With that out of the way, I guess it is time for me to give this game a score. Scoring for each and every review will range from 1 to 10 at a 0.1 scale. My score is developed based on the storytelling, the side characters, the level design, and how immersed into the game I am. With the pros and cons that I previously listed, I think it is safe to say that the good heavily outweighs the bad, which is why I arrived to my score of, drum roll please, 8.4. Now you could be thinking this may not be the greatest score, and in my opinion, it is an outstanding one, a score that many games these days are nowhere close to. That is why when I say I highly recommend checking this game out if you haven't already, I mean it. For a game that came out in 2010, I still believe that it is a leading example for what companies should strive for. Dipping their toes in the deep end and creating something new. Not only to support the sci-fi geeks, but for single-player enthusiasts alike. We don't need to see another major AAA title with an open world, but something that we could feel ourselves becoming immersed in. Life in a story. That is what this game had to offer. And I'm happy I took a gamble. And I'm sure the devs were too. If you have made it to the end of the video, I want to give a huge thanks to you, the viewer. This is my first project on YouTube, and it took a good bit of time to perfect it. Video games have always been a hobby of mine, and they always will be, which is why I get so passionate talking about them. If you have any tips on how to make future videos better, or have any recommendations for games, drop them down in the comments. I'd be happy to read what you have to say. Other than that, this is a new channel, so liking and subscribing is the best way for me to know that you guys are liking what I'm doing over here. If you wish to check out my playthrough of Metro 2033, you can find my playlist in the description. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time. Peace.